Imagine waking up tomorrow with complete confidence, unshakable focus, and a mind that no longer depends on the approval of anyone else. What if the greatest breakthrough of your life is not waiting in a crowded room, but in the quiet moments you've been trying to escape? Most people fear being alone because they mistake solitude for loneliness. But the truth is, every extraordinary life has been shaped in moments when no one was watching, applauding, or believing. In this speech, you'll discover why solitude is one of the most powerful tools for personal growth, why successful people intentionally create time away from distractions, and how a few moments of purposeful silence each day can completely transform your future. Stay until the end, because the final lesson may completely change the way you think about success, relationships, and your own hidden potential. The greatest investment you will ever make is not in the stock market, real estate, or a business venture. It is the investment you make in yourself. Yet the problem is that many people spend their entire lives surrounded by noise. They are constantly listening to opinions, scrolling through distractions, chasing approval, and reacting to everyone else's expectations. They become experts at understanding other people while remaining strangers to themselves. Solitude changes that. When you intentionally step away from the crowd, you begin hearing something far more valuable than the world's opinions. You begin hearing your own thoughts. That is where clarity is born. Every meaningful decision starts with a clear mind, and a clear mind is impossible in a life filled with constant distraction. Solitude gives you the opportunity to evaluate your habits, your dreams, your goals, and your direction without outside interference. Instead of asking what everyone else wants from you, you begin asking what you truly want from life. That simple question has the power to redirect your entire future. Most people believe success comes from constantly doing more. They fill every minute of every day with activity because they think being busy means being productive. But activity without reflection often leads to exhaustion instead of achievement. Solitude teaches a different lesson. It reminds you that growth happens not only through action, but also through thoughtful evaluation. Every great builder studies the blueprint before laying another brick. Every successful farmer examines the field before planting another seed. Likewise, every successful person must regularly pause to examine the direction of their own life. Without those quiet moments, you may spend years climbing a ladder only to discover it was leaning against the wrong wall. Solitude allows you to correct your course before time becomes your greatest regret. One of the greatest fears people have is being alone with their own thoughts. That fear exists because silence reveals truths that distractions successfully hide. When everything becomes quiet, excuses become obvious. Hidden fears become visible. Weak habits become impossible to ignore. But this is not something to avoid. It is something to embrace. You cannot improve what you refuse to confront. Growth begins the moment honesty replaces comfort. Solitude creates an environment where excuses lose their power because there is no audience left to impress. There is only you, your choices, and your future. That kind of honesty is uncomfortable at first, but it eventually becomes incredibly liberating. The strongest people are not those who avoid difficult truths. They are the ones who face them without running away. Another remarkable gift of solitude is the development of emotional independence. Too many people allow their happiness to depend on how others treat them. One compliment lifts their confidence. One criticism destroys it. Their emotional state rises and falls according to someone else's opinion. That is a dangerous way to live because you surrender control of your peace to circumstances you cannot control. Solitude teaches you to become emotionally grounded. It helps you discover your value without needing constant validation. You begin appreciating your own company instead of fearing it. You stop chasing attention because you realize your worth was never determined by applause. Confidence built in solitude cannot easily be shaken by rejection because it was never built on other people's approval in the first place. There is another reason solitude changes lives. It strengthens discipline. When no one is watching, character is revealed. Anyone can appear motivated in front of an audience. Anyone can work hard when recognition is guaranteed. But real discipline is developed in private. It is choosing to read when no one tells you to read. It is exercising when no one expects it. It is learning, improving, planning, and growing without needing applause. Solitude becomes the training ground where self-discipline replaces external motivation. Eventually, discipline becomes your identity rather than your temporary mood. And once discipline becomes part of who you are, success becomes less about luck and more about consistency. Extraordinary results are almost always the product of ordinary actions repeated faithfully over long periods of time. Finally, understand that solitude is not about isolating yourself from the world forever. It is about preparing yourself so you can contribute more effectively when you return to it. The strongest leaders are not constantly speaking. They spend time thinking. The greatest creators are not endlessly consuming. They spend time creating. The wisest individuals are not addicted to constant conversation. They make room for quiet reflection. Solitude fills your mind with wisdom, your heart with peace, and your future with purpose. When you intentionally schedule time alone to think, learn, reflect, and grow, you return to your family, your work, your friendships, and your responsibilities with greater clarity and greater strength. You become someone who influences the world instead of someone constantly influenced by it. And perhaps the greatest lesson of all is this: the life you dream about is not created by escaping solitude. It is created by embracing it. Every moment you invest in becoming a stronger, wiser, and more disciplined person is a moment that moves you closer to the future you deserve. The crowd may entertain you for a while, but solitude has the power to transform you for a lifetime. The greatest investment you will ever make is not in the stock market, real estate, or a business venture. It is the investment you make in yourself. Yet many people spend their entire lives surrounded by constant noise. They wake up checking notifications, spend the day listening to other people's opinions, and go to bed without spending even a few minutes understanding their own thoughts. Over time, they become experts at reacting to the world, but beginners at leading themselves. That is why so many people feel busy yet unfulfilled. They have mastered activity, but neglected self-discovery. Solitude changes everything because it gives you the one thing that modern life constantly tries to steal: clarity. When you intentionally step away from distractions, you create space for honest reflection. You begin asking questions that truly matter. Where am I going? Am I living according to my values? Are my daily habits moving me closer to the future I want or further away from it? Those questions cannot be answered in the middle of constant noise. They require silence, patience, and the courage to be completely honest with yourself. Many people avoid being alone because they confuse solitude with loneliness. Loneliness is feeling disconnected from others, but solitude is choosing to connect with yourself. There is a powerful difference. In those quiet moments, you discover strengths you never noticed, ideas you never considered, and dreams you may have buried beneath years of distraction. The more you understand yourself, the more confident your decisions become. Instead of following the crowd, you begin creating your own direction. Remember this: the quality of your future is determined by the quality of the conversations you have with yourself when no one else is around. Master those quiet moments, and you will build a life guided by purpose instead of pressure, by wisdom instead of noise, and by confidence instead of comparison. Most people believe success comes from constantly doing more. They measure their value by how busy they are, how many hours they work, or how many tasks they complete in a single day. Their calendars are full, their minds are crowded, and their schedules leave no room to think, but being busy is not the same as being productive. You can spend years running faster without ever asking if you're moving in the right direction. Motion without purpose leads to exhaustion, not fulfillment. That is why solitude is so powerful. It gives you the opportunity to stop running long enough to make sure you are headed toward the life you truly want. Think of an architect before a building is constructed. The strongest structures are not built by rushing to lay bricks. They begin with careful planning, detailed blueprints, and thoughtful preparation. Life works the same way. If you never pause to evaluate your direction, your habits, and your priorities, you may build a successful career, earn a comfortable income, or gain recognition, only to discover that you sacrificed your peace, your health, or your relationships along the way. Solitude allows you to step back and examine the blueprint of your life before adding another brick. Quiet reflection also helps you recognize what truly deserves your energy. Not every opportunity is worth pursuing, and not every invitation deserves a yes. Successful people understand that focus is more valuable than constant activity. Every time you say yes to something unimportant, you are saying no to something that could change your future. Solitude sharpens your ability to separate distractions from priorities. It teaches you that progress is not measured by how much you do, but by how much of what you do actually matters. When you spend time alone reflecting on your experiences, you also turn mistakes into valuable lessons. Instead of repeating the same errors year after year, you begin asking, what did this situation teach me? What can I improve? How can I make better decisions next time? Those questions transform failure into education. Every setback becomes a stepping stone instead of a stopping point. Reflection gives experience its true value because experience alone does not guarantee wisdom. Learning from experience does. Never underestimate the power of a quiet hour spent thinking about your life. A single moment of honest reflection can save you years of wasted effort. The person who regularly pauses to evaluate their path will always have an advantage over the person who simply keeps moving without direction. Success is not built by endless activity alone. It is built by thoughtful action, clear priorities, and the wisdom to stop, reflect, and adjust before continuing the journey. One of the greatest fears people carry is the fear of being alone with their own thoughts. That fear does not come from silence itself. It comes from what silence reveals. As long as life is filled with constant entertainment, endless conversations, and nonstop distractions, it is easy to ignore the areas that need attention. But the moment everything becomes quiet, the truth begins to speak. You begin to notice the habits that are holding you back, the excuses you've been repeating, and the dreams you've been postponing. Solitude acts like a mirror. It reflects not only who you are today, but also who you are capable of becoming if you are willing to change. Most people spend more time blaming circumstances than examining themselves. They point to the economy, their upbringing, their lack of opportunities, or the people around them. While those challenges may be real, they should never become permanent excuses. The only life you can truly improve is your own, and that improvement begins with personal responsibility. Solitude creates the perfect environment for that responsibility because there is no audience to impress and no one else to blame. It is just you, your choices, and your future. That level of honesty may feel uncomfortable at first, but discomfort is often the doorway to growth. When you honestly evaluate yourself, you stop asking, why is this happening to me, and start asking, what can I do differently? That single shift changes everything. Instead of becoming a victim of your circumstances, you become the architect of your future. You realize that every habit can be changed, every skill can be learned, and every weakness can become a strength through consistent effort. Growth is not reserved for the naturally gifted. It belongs to those who are willing to confront their limitations and work on them every single day. The beautiful thing about solitude is that it gives you permission to improve without comparison. You are no longer competing with someone else's timeline or measuring your success against another person's achievements. Your only competition is the person you were yesterday. Every small improvement matters. Reading one more chapter, exercising for another 20 minutes, learning a new skill, or replacing one negative habit with a positive one may seem insignificant in a single day. But repeated consistently, these actions completely transform a life. Never run from silence, because silence is one of your greatest teachers. The truths you discover in those quiet moments may challenge your comfort, but they will also unlock your potential. Every extraordinary life begins with an ordinary person who is brave enough to face themselves honestly. When you embrace solitude instead of fearing it, you stop hiding from your weaknesses, start building your strengths, and move forward with a level of confidence that no outside opinion can ever take away. Another remarkable gift of solitude is the development of emotional independence. Too many people allow their happiness to be controlled by the opinions of others. A compliment makes them feel valuable, while a criticism makes them question everything about themselves. They spend their lives chasing approval, hoping that acceptance from others will finally bring them peace. But peace that depends on other people is never permanent. As long as your confidence is built on applause, it will collapse the moment the applause stops. True strength begins when you learn to value yourself without needing constant validation from the world. Solitude teaches this lesson better than any classroom ever could. When you spend time alone, you begin discovering who you are beneath the expectations of society. You are no longer performing for an audience or trying to impress anyone. Instead, you begin asking deeper questions. What do I truly believe? What kind of person do I want to become? What principles will guide my decisions even when no one is watching? These questions help you build an identity that is rooted in character instead of popularity. And character is something no criticism can destroy. One of the greatest freedoms in life is reaching the point where rejection no longer defines you. There will always be people who misunderstand your vision, doubt your abilities, or disagree with your choices. If you allow every opinion to influence your emotions, you will spend your entire life changing directions to satisfy people who were never responsible for your future. Solitude strengthens your inner voice so that it becomes louder than the noise of criticism. You learn to listen carefully to advice, but you no longer surrender your purpose to someone else's judgment. As emotional independence grows, fear begins to lose its power. You stop worrying about fitting in because you become comfortable standing out. You stop chasing attention because your focus shifts toward growth. Instead of asking, do people believe in me? You begin asking, am I becoming the person I know I can be? That question creates a completely different mindset. Your energy moves away from proving yourself to others and toward improving yourself every single day. Remember, confidence is not built by hearing hundreds of compliments. Confidence is built by keeping the promises you make to yourself. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, honesty over excuses, and purpose over popularity, you strengthen your self-respect. And when self-respect becomes the foundation of your life, you gain something the world cannot give and cannot take away. A quiet, unshakable confidence that remains steady regardless of praise, criticism, success, or failure. That is the power of emotional independence, and it is one of the greatest rewards that solitude can ever offer. There is another reason solitude has the power to transform your life. It becomes the birthplace of discipline. Many people believe discipline is something you display in public, but real discipline is developed in private. Anyone can appear motivated when others are watching. It is easy to work hard when recognition is guaranteed, when compliments are expected, or when rewards are visible. But the true measure of your character is revealed when no one is paying attention. The habits you practice in silence determine the results the world eventually sees. Success is never created on the stage first. It is built behind the scenes where no applause exists. Solitude gives you the opportunity to strengthen the habits that shape your future. It is in those quiet moments that you choose whether to read another chapter instead of wasting another hour. It is where you decide to exercise, even though no one will praise your effort. It is where you organize your thoughts, write your goals, improve your skills, and prepare for opportunities that have not yet arrived. These actions may seem small and insignificant, but they are the foundation upon which extraordinary lives are built. Great achievements are rarely the result of one dramatic decision. They are the result of thousands of small decisions made consistently over time. One of the greatest enemies of discipline is waiting to feel motivated. Feelings are unreliable. Some mornings you will feel excited and other mornings you will feel tired, discouraged, or distracted. If your actions depend on your emotions, your progress will always be inconsistent. Discipline teaches a different lesson. It says, do what needs to be done whether you feel like it or not. Solitude strengthens this mindset because there is no one else to encourage you. You learn to become your own coach, your own motivator, and your own source of accountability. That ability is priceless because life will not always provide external encouragement. Every day you spend in purposeful solitude is like making a deposit into the bank account of your future. At first, the progress may seem invisible. You may not notice dramatic changes after one day, 1 week, or even 1 month. But just as a tree grows quietly beneath the soil before anyone sees its branches, your discipline is developing roots that will eventually support remarkable success. The stronger the roots, the stronger the future. Never underestimate the value of consistent private effort simply because the results are not immediate. Always remember that winners are not separated from others by talent alone. They are separated by the habits they practice when nobody is watching. The world celebrates the visible achievement, but it rarely sees the lonely mornings, the quiet evenings, the sacrifices, the preparation, and the discipline that made that achievement possible. If you can learn to embrace solitude as your training ground, you will build habits that last, character that cannot be shaken, and a future that reflects the quiet work you chose to do long before anyone noticed. The final and perhaps greatest lesson of solitude is this: it is not meant to separate you from the world. It is meant to prepare you for it. Many people believe that spending time alone means withdrawing from life. But purposeful solitude is not about escape. It is about renewal. It is the place where your mind becomes sharper, your character becomes stronger, and your vision becomes clearer. Just as an athlete rests to perform at their highest level, every successful person needs moments away from the noise to recharge, reflect, and grow. Solitude is not the destination. It is the training ground that prepares you to make a greater impact when you return to your responsibilities. Think about the strongest leaders, the wisest teachers, and the greatest creators throughout history. They all understood the value of quiet reflection. Before making important decisions, they stepped away from distractions. Before speaking with confidence, they spent time thinking with intention. Before creating something remarkable, they first developed it in silence. The world often sees the final achievement, but rarely witnesses the quiet hours of preparation that made it possible. Every meaningful accomplishment begins long before it becomes visible. It begins with a person who was willing to spend time alone, improving themselves while everyone else was distracted. Solitude also teaches you how to become a source of strength for others. You cannot consistently encourage people if you are emotionally exhausted. You cannot lead with wisdom if your own mind is filled with confusion. You cannot inspire confidence if you constantly depend on the approval of others. By investing time in your own growth, you become better equipped to serve your family, your friends, your community, and everyone whose life you touch. Personal growth is never a selfish pursuit. The stronger you become, the more value you can offer to the people around you. As you continue your journey, make solitude a regular appointment rather than an occasional event. Set aside time to read, think, write, pray, or meditate. Evaluate your progress and plan your future. Protect those moments with the same commitment you would give to an important meeting because, in reality, they are the most important meetings you will ever have. They are meetings with the person responsible for your future. You. Every quiet moment invested in self-improvement becomes a seed planted for tomorrow's success. Never fear walking alone for a season if it helps you become the person you were created to be. The crowd may offer comfort, but comfort rarely produces greatness. Noise may entertain you, but silence has the power to educate you. Approval may make you feel accepted for a moment, but character will sustain you for a lifetime. The life you dream about is not built by constantly following the crowd. It is built by having the courage to step away, reflect deeply, grow intentionally, and return stronger than before. So embrace solitude with gratitude instead of fear. Let it become the place where your vision is sharpened, your discipline is strengthened, your confidence is built, and your purpose is renewed. One day, people may look at your success and wonder how you became so focused, so resilient, and so wise. They will see the results, but only you will know the truth, that your greatest transformation did not begin in front of an audience. It began in the quiet moments, when no one was watching, and you made the decision to become the very best version of yourself. As we come to the end of this message, remember one simple truth. The greatest transformation in your life will never begin with changing your circumstances. It will begin with changing yourself. And the best place to begin that transformation is in the quiet moments of solitude. The world will always compete for your attention. It will fill your days with noise, distractions, opinions, and endless demands. But if you never take time to step away, you may spend your entire life achieving things that never truly fulfill you. Do not fear being alone. Fear becoming so distracted that you never discover the person you were meant to become. Every hour spent reflecting, learning, planning, and improving yourself is an investment that no one can ever take away. The discipline you build in private will become the confidence you display in public. The wisdom you gain in silence will guide your decisions when life becomes difficult. And the character you develop when no one is watching will become the foundation of every success you achieve. Remember, you don't need the approval of the crowd to build an extraordinary life. You need a clear vision, consistent discipline, unwavering faith in your potential, and the courage to keep moving forward even when the journey feels lonely. Solitude is not your enemy. It is your greatest teacher. It is where your excuses lose their power, your purpose becomes clear, and your future begins to take shape. Starting today, make a commitment to spend a little time with yourself every single day. Read something that challenges your thinking. Write down your goals. Reflect on your progress. Learn from your mistakes. Strengthen your mind. Protect your peace. Build your character. These small daily investments may seem insignificant now, but over time they will produce results that others will call extraordinary. Years from now, people may admire your confidence, your wisdom, and your success. They may wonder what your secret was. They will see the achievements, but they will never fully see the countless quiet mornings, the lonely evenings, the disciplined choices, and the moments of honest self-reflection that made those achievements possible. Never underestimate the power of solitude. It is where ordinary people become extraordinary. It is where vision becomes reality, discipline becomes habit, and dreams become achievements. Walk into those quiet moments with purpose, embrace the lessons they offer, and let them shape you into the person you were always capable of becoming. Your future is not waiting for the perfect opportunity. It is waiting for the better version of you. And that journey begins the moment you choose the power of solitude.